Hello, today I'm going to show you how to make fast 4 patches from fat quarters. So the block we're making is going to be 6.5 inch measured block, so finished when it's sewn in will be a 6 inch block. That means that we would need these bits to be cut at 3.5 inches, but we're going to work with strips today from the fat quarters. So I've got 4 different fat quarters, and I've already ironed them and laid them out on my board, and I have laid them in pairs. So I'm going to be sewing the blue to the grey, and I'm going to be sewing the green to the light grey. So I've laid them right sides together in their pairs, but in a stack of 4 fat quarters all together. And I've lined them up on my cutting board using the lines on the board to help me line them up. So I've got the selvages of the fat quarter along here, and I'm going to cut now a 3.5 inch strip. So I'm going to first of all just trim off the edge using again the lines on the board, and then I'm going to come along 3.5 inches and cut a 3.5 inch strip. Now I'm going to, because I've got them right sides together in pairs, I'm going to pick up the top pair and I'm going to take that to the sewing machine, and I'm going to sew that seam just using a 1/4 inch seam. So I'll sew all the way along to join the whole of the 2 strips together. And now I'm going to pick up the other pair off the board, and I'm going to take those over to the sewing machine. And the same thing, I'm going to continue on sewing and feed in the next pair of strips. So now I've joined together 2 pairs of strips, and they just need to be pressed now, and I'm going to press the seams one way, and so I'm going to choose which fabric I want to press them to. And because on my block I'm going to be having my grey squares opposite each other, I'm going to choose to press the seam to the colour each time rather than the grey. So I press from the right side of the fabric, and I just hold it up, allow the seam to sit over, and I just press that seam over. And you'll find you'll get a nice pressed seam doing it that way. And also with the other one. Same thing, I want the seam pressed in towards the colour rather than the grey. So I'll lay the grey down, hold the colour up, and just gently press that seam over. This way you don't tend to get little pleats and tucks where the seam hasn't pressed open, and it gives you a nice flat press. And then back to the cutting board now. I'm going to slice these up into strips, and I'm going to lay them right sides together and cut them together. So I'm not trying to line up that seam particularly or anything, but I'm just going to lay them one on top of the other, and I'm going to just have them so that I can trim them at this end. And then every 3.5 inches using the markings on the board. And just go all the way along doing that. So these are cut at 3.5 inches. And we should just get 6 out. It's very tight, but hopefully you'll get 6 out of that width from the fat quarter. And then I'm going to pick up my pair, which are already right sides together, but I'm going to butt these 2 seams. Now I should have the seams going in opposite direction. We should have the colour that way and the colour coming this way. So these seams here, I can just place it down and I can just slide that along till it just sits snugly together. And then I will take that to the sewing machine and sew my 1/4 inch seam. And I'm just holding on to the way that seam is butted together. You could put a pin in there, but I don't often get around to pins. And I'm just going to sew. Just keep an eye that your edges are staying together. And then I'll pick up the next pair and do just the same thing again. So I'm going to butt that seam till it just sits in snugly. And I'll just do one more just to show you. Pick up your pair, butt the seam together, and by chain piecing you're getting them flowing through nicely. You could have cut up a whole lot more if you'd wanted to, but for today I'm just showing you on these few. So now back to the iron. And now I open that out and I'm going to press the seams to one side. And because I butted those seams together just here, you get a very nice, because I butted the seams together here, you get a nice point in the middle. So I'll just press these others. And there I've made some 4 patches in super fast time, but they're nice and neat and tidy. And you could be making those into a quilt or whatever it is that you're going to use them for. By my calculations, you should get 24 blocks out of 4 fat quarters cutting them like that. So we cut the strips 3.5 inches, joined them together in pairs, then we cut them again at 3.5 inch strips across those and join them together. And so this should now measure 6.5 inches, and yes, it measures 6.5 inches, which is very pleasing. And they'll be 6 inch finished when they're set into a quilt. Thank you.